Hey, baby, it is season 2, episode 21 of Heavy Theology.
And this is a big week for us.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Our big event is coming up on Friday.
Friday, yeah. Yeah, and once this is released, it'll actually be in hindsight.
Exactly. So we'll let you guys know how that goes on next week's episode because we don't know yet. We don't know yet. All right, last week we talked about dream interpretation. If you missed that episode or any of our past episodes, I invite you to check them out. And if you like what you see or hear there, please take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Heavy Theology.
Excellent.
Yes, and today we are talking about numerology.
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 There's numbers in the Bible.
There are numbers in the Bible. You're correct. All right, numerology. Well, as you know, I am a numbers girl. I love numbers. I did terrible in math in elementary school and high school, but when I got to college and started working with real world numbers, they began to take on a life of their own for me. And I am all about numbers. I do math in my sleep and I do journal entries in my dreams. I work 10 hours a day in numbers and I love them, but numerology was pretty new to me until I started doing my research.
Excellent.
Yeah. So what about you? Are you into numerology or angel numbers?
I don't know about angel numbers, but I've definitely been into the significant numbers of the Hebrew idea of symbolism and what numbers mean.
I got you. Well, angel numbers are all about the sequences of numbers and how when you see them in different places, you know, how your guardian angels are talking to you.
We don't talk to our guardian angels, and they don't talk to us.
So are you telling me that you don't wait for the clock to go 11:11 or 12:34 and to make a wish? You don't do all that?
I believe I do not do that, no.
Well, that's probably why our dreams have not come true.
Probably so, yes. Yeah.
I'm just teasing. Well, are you ready for some research?
I'm ready for some research.
All right. Well, long before the concept of angel numbers or numerology really came into the mainstream, Greek mathematician Pythagoras taught that numbers were the building blocks of the universe.
So the first few Greek philosophers, and seeing I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy, wanted to find out what is true and what is God, and what is eternally true and what is eternally God, then therefore if it's eternally true. And Pythagoras thought it was math.
Absolutely.
Because 4 plus 4 is always 9. Oh, I mean 8.
And that's why he doesn't do the books. Well, he believed that everything in the universe could be reduced to numbers, and that numbers held very special, mystical, and energetic properties and personalities. And then something that thrilled me to no end are one of our heroes, or at least one of my heroes, St. Augustine of Hippo, was also a huge fan of numbers. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay. Did you know that he famously wrote that numbers are the thoughts of God?
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Was that in the City of God or Confessions or?
I think that was actually in, no, it's one of the other ones, and I can't remember for the life of me which one it was. I don't believe it was in City of God, but I believe it was in, yeah. He believed that the mathematical order of the universe was undeniable proof of a deliberate creator. Yeah.
There could be a case made for that.
Yeah. He believed that a numerical blueprint lived in the mind of God long before God created the world. And he argued that physical things can decay, but mathematical truths are eternal and unchangeable. And I've always told you that that's why I love numbers. They don't lie. They are what they are. They're either white or black, and there are no gray areas with numbers. So it fascinated me that my hero, St. Augustine, loved them for the same reason. But St. Augustine was a much deeper thinker than Bree Strickler, and he took things one step further. He reasoned that because God is also eternal and unchangeable, numbers must be a direct reflection of God's divine character. To study numbers was to study the thoughts of God. And he had some interesting evidence to support his theory. The Wisdom of Solomon 11:20 from the Apocrypha states that God ordered all things by measure, weight, and number. All of those numerical values. Augustine explained that this is exactly why the universe is beautiful and orderly, and this is where our form and harmony comes from. And he went on to suggest that even physical beauty is just number made visible to our eyes. Without numbers, our universe would dissolve into nothingness.
Wow.
Yeah. He also believed that any time a number appeared in the Bible, God hid a deeper theological secret inside of it. And we'll get into that a bit more later, I bet. And because I could talk all day about St. Augustine, I will just leave it right there. But I will say, if you go to our church and Pastor ever mentions that we're going to study the Confessions of St. Augustine, you have me to blame for that, because I'm always suggesting it to him as our next study. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of literature that I've ever read, and so I highly recommend it. Yeah. But as for traditional numerology, or using numbers for fortune telling or divination, before the 20th century, this was known as arithmancy. Yeah. The earliest recorded instance of using numerology dates back to the 8th century BC. The Assyrian king Sargon II commissioned the Great Wall of Khorsabad and declared that it be built exactly 16,283 cubits long. And that was the precise number that corresponded to the numerical value of his name. And this was considered a huge power flex for his time. It was a way of writing his destiny onto the physical architecture of the earth. So there are 3 pillars of historical arithmancy that you know what? I mess that word up every time I go to say it, so we're just going to say numerology until it's time to use a different word, okay? There are 3 pillars of historical numerology that modern numerologists still use today. The astrological approach, and this originated in ancient Mesopotamia, and it is considered the oldest form of divination numerology. Numbers 1 through 8 were assigned to letters based on the distinct sound vibrations of the spoken alphabet. Now, they viewed the number 9 as holy and divine, so it was omitted from the alphabet until it appeared as the final sum of a calculation, like 6 plus 3 or 5 plus 4, and that's when those would be used, the number 9 would be used. Sums resulting in single digits represented a person's outer persona, and double digits represented inner hidden forces, warnings, and future fates. Number 2 is Pythagorean numerology. Now, while Pythagoras didn't use numbers to divine the future, later occultists of the Western world did adapt his mathematical models into their fortune-telling systems. And in this method, the letters of the alphabet are assigned a number 1 through 9 based on their place in the alphabet. So A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3, and so on and so forth. Here, one can determine their destiny number using their full birth name. So your full birth name, whatever that numerological value would have been, that is your destiny number. And then their life path number is your birth date. So whatever those numbers add up to be as a number 1 through 9, that would forecast your natural traits and future troubles and where you'd end up. Yeah.
The idea of assigning numbers to letters is not new. In the Hebrew and Greek, in which the Bible was written, there was no difference between numbers and letters.
Oh, okay.
So Aleph, it's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, that's 1. Bet is 2.
Yeah.
And then Alpha, of course, in the Greek alphabet is the numbers of the number 1 as well. So.
Sure, I gotcha. I gotcha. All right, so they're not too far off, at least in their categorization of their numbers, anyway.
And it can be traced back to Mesopotamia, which isn't unusual. If you remember in the Bible, Abraham comes from Mesopotamia.
Oh.
So is it any wonder that the Mesopotamians has some of the same accounts of creation as do the Jews? Because the nation of Israel isn't created until Abraham's cult, and a whole bunch of stuff happens before that, right?
Yeah.
So Abraham comes from Mesopotamia, so it's not unusual that the Hebrew Bible has a lot in common with the Mesopotamians.
Oh, okay.
Because basically the founder of the Hebrew religion, Abraham, was in fact Mesopotamian.
Nice. Nice. Look at you.
I know.
Yeah,
It's like I studied it or something.
I know. Did you do PJ Search, or did you know all these things beforehand?
Well,
You
I knew that from Enoch.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, you probably knew all that beforehand, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, would you like to know that I have mapped out our destiny and our life path numbers?
Oh, boy. Sure.
Well, I didn't do that because I don't practice
I was
sorcery.
just going to say, I won't put any faith and trust in it, but you can share it with me.
But y'all, he
If
was
you did
going to
the
let
work.
me do that.
If you did the work,
I know. I love how he'll let me do anything with this podcast. Holy cow. You guys are in for it. And then there was Renaissance magic, or what some call the science of fortune telling. Now, this is where the ancient systems that you were talking about and the ones that we were just, discussing, and ceremonial magic meet. And this one is a bit more complicated, but essentially, occult scholar Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa mapped out a magic number square. And it was basically several magic number squares associated with planets to predict a person's luck, health, and political fortunes. Now you have to remember, this was the mid-1500s, and astrology, math, medicine, and fortune telling were all treated as branches of the same science. So his system didn't seem so far-fetched when he released his famous 3 books of occult philosophy. Then in the 20th century, arithmancy, notice how well I said it that time.
Yeah, girl.
Yes, I'm getting there. It was rebranded as numerology. And when the scientific method started being taught in universities, it really started to push out numerology and was no longer considered a science as much. And numerology, as we see it today, was actually born at the turn of the 20th century thanks to 3 people. All right. Mrs. L. Dow Ballier, an American author who published books in the early 1900s connecting the Pythagorean number system to vibrations, colors, and New Thought spirituality. Dr. Julian Stenton, he is widely credited with coining the term numerology, and I think it's because nobody can say arithmancy very well. It doesn't roll off the tongue very well. And then Count Louis Hammond. He was a world-famous Irish astrologer and palmist in the early 1900s who read the fortune of celebrities like Mark Twain, Oscar Wilde, and Thomas Edison. He argued that if you didn't like the way your life was going, you just simply changed the spelling of your name.
Nice.
Yeah. He claimed that changing the spelling of your name could actually alter the vibrational trajectory of your future fortune.
I don't think that's probably likely.
You're not going to change your name?
No.
No? We're not going to do like J-ME for your name?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. I tell you what, we'll do that and we'll let you guys know in a couple of months how much our
How that
fortunes
turns out.
have changed.
There you go.
Well, as for angel numbers, this is a quite modern term, and it was coined in the early 2000s by New Age author Doreen Virtue.
It's New Age?
It's New Age.
No.
I know.
Well, it must be true.
It must be true. She suggested that the specific sequences of numbers like 111, 444, and 777 could be direct but very gentle nudges from guardian angels and spirit guides. And we'll get into guardian angels in a season 3 episode, which we'll release around Christmas of 2026. And in fact, we have multiple episodes devoted to angels scheduled for release around Christmas, so you guys can look forward to that. All right, how about some heavy theology for us?
Heavy theology. Well, first of all, they're not angel numbers. Hebrew is a very symmetrical language, and it's very symbolic in nature. And so a lot of the Hebrew authors, when they create their books of the Bible, there are the same number of facts that lead, or the topics that lead up to a peak and then come down the other side. And it's called a chiasm because it comes from the Greek letter chi. That looks like an X. It's kind of the bottom of that. And so there's a lot of chiasms in the Old and New Testament. And so a Hebrew book of the Bible has to be symmetrical. You're not going to find a topic that's heavier weighted in the first part and not so much in the end. If it's heavier weighted in the first part of the Hebrew book, it will be heavy weighted in the end. Very, very symmetrical. So, but numbers were very much symbolic, not magical. Ah, yes. Symbolic, but not magical.
Well, there's no magic.
No magic. So in the Bible, the number 1, of course, represents the one triune God. Number 3 is the Trinity, of course. So anytime you see 3 or things in 3, it's representing the Trinity. You see these seraphim in heaven in the throne room saying, "Holy, holy, holy." They're saying it 3 times. It's one for each member of the Trinity.
Oh, nice.
Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, right? Okay, so 3 is the Trinity. 4 is the earth, as there are 4 corners of earth, north, south, east, and west. We see in the book of Revelation that God, the Lamb tells the angels holding back the forces at the 4 corners of the earth, north, south, east, and west, not to release it until everyone has been marked with the seal of the Lamb. Everyone that has been born that's going to have faith has faith. So the destruction of the earth is being held back at each of the 4 corners. So 4 is the number for the earth. 6 is the number of man, because on the 6th day, man was created. 7 is the number of perfection or completeness. That's the day God was completed his creation and rested.
Sure.
10 is the number of divine order or law, the 10 Commandments, of course. And then 12 is the number of God's people, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles. So in Revelation, when you see 24 thrones, it's showing the God's people from the Old Testament, the 12 tribes of Israel, and the New Testament, the 12 apostles. 12 and 12 is 24. The Old and New Testament come together in unison to sit on the divine council and help God rule the new heaven and the new earth. Okay? 17 is the number of victory. It's overcoming one's enemies. And it's the combination of 10, the divine law or divine order, and 7, perfection or completeness. 17. 40 is the number of judgment. We see the Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years, and we see that Jesus was tempted for 40 days. So 40 is the number of judgment and temptation. How's that for you?
So that's really neat. Okay, so going back to my guy, St. Augustine. So he thought that the number 6 was the number of perfection, not imperfection.
Right.
And the reason why was because the number 6 equaled the sum of its divisors. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. So that made him think that it was the number of perfection, but it's actually the number of imperfection.
So Augustine was really one of the great Christian philosophers and church fathers. But Augustine had a very Hellenistic background in philosophy. He was very Platonic in his nature, followed Plato. When you said that he believed that was the number of our form, well, Plato believed that there is a realm outside of here, we would call it heaven, where all of the perfect forms of things exist. So this is a table, but it's round. Over there is a coffee table, but it's square. There are two different things, round and square. However, they both have tableness to them.
Sure.
So for Plato, there is the form of the perfect table in this realm, and we just have imperfect representations of it here on earth.
Oh, wow.
So you can see some of Augustine's Platonic philosophy coming into play.
Sure.
And he was also Manichaean.
Sure.
You know, which was discovered, it was declared a heresy in the New Testament times, in the Church Fathers times. So you can see that sometimes he goes a little off board into his Hellenistic, Platonic kind of ideas and abandons Scripture.
Yeah, he definitely kind of lost me with some of his reasoning for his numerological preference, for lack of a better word. For instance, the number 40, testing and judgment, for him, the number 40 corresponded to a perfect world, because we have 4 seasons, you know, we have 4 corners of the earth, as you mentioned, and then the number 10, which you had mentioned, was divine order and law. And he was thinking, you know, 4 times 10 equals 40. So that's a number of perfection as well.
So what you've touched on is a deep underlying factor of my doctoral work, is that Augustine brings in some great ideas and philosophy into Christianity. I mean, in the Confessions, the first paragraph, Lord, our hearts are restless till they rest in you.
I love that. I'm telling you, guys got to read that. I'm telling you.
However, with Augustine, though, the Jewishness of Christianity, the Second Temple Jewishness, is abandoned, and Hellenism is embraced. And so we lose a lot of the Hebraic symbolism, the Hebraic ideas that Christianity was built in and around and post-Augustine.
I got you.
So a lot of the truth that I hold to in Christian doctrine as well as Jewish doctrine comes in what they call the ante-Nicene fathers, ANTE, the before the Council of Nicene fathers, so before Augustine. But yeah, after Augustine, Christianity becomes very Hellenized, very Greek, and we lose a lot of the Hebrew symbolism. And again, that's a part of my doctoral work, is to go back and say, no, wait a minute. What was the supernatural view of demons and angels and exorcisms and spiritual warfare before Augustine in the original church, in the New Testament, in Second Temple Judaism?
Right. Wow. I'm going to earn that Reverend Mrs. Doctor before long.
You are going to do so.
Yeah.
You're going to do so. Do you want to talk about some numbers in the Bible?
I absolutely want to talk
Let's
about
talk about a number that everyone wants to talk about. 666.
Okay.
The mark of the beast. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
So there are some conspiracy theorists, and it comes out of a school of thought in the 1800s with the Plymouth Brethren, Charles Nelson Darby. And Darby comes up with this whole new idea of revelation. And he is known to history as the father of dispensationalism. And dispensationalism then, of course, being invented in the 1800s, is a very new school of thought. And it teaches that there are different dispensations where God continues to reveal his will. So what would have meant something to the early apostles of the early church fathers, God's further revealed his will in these dispensations, and it means something different to us today. If that's true, then the Word of God is relative to your time in history and not objective to always true. So I'm not a dispensationalist by any stretch of the imagination. If that is true, then there are new books to be written in the Bible, right? There's new revelations, there's new dispensations. Well, we know that's not true. So you can see that dispensationalism falls down on itself rather quickly. So this whole new interpretation of there's going to be a premillennial rapture, and there's going to be 666 is a literal mark of the beast, and it's a mark where people take and they have to buy and sell and so on. And if they don't use it to buy and sell, they get thrown in jail. John is speaking symbolically. We can see that right away, and he's using Old Testament imagery. And the reason why Darby and his false ideas of dispensationalism have caught on with interpreting Revelation is because people aren't aware of the Old Testament. If you know Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Daniel, Revelation's not a mystery. All of the imagery that John uses comes from those three books. And John's throne room experience in Revelation is the same as Ezekiel and Isaiah, right? Only he sees the church now there. And so John is using Old Testament imagery in Revelation to explain the spiritual warfare that's going on around them. What is the only Bible that the readers of John's letter of Revelation would have had? The Old Testament. So he's using biblical imagery that would have been their Bible at the time to explain that this is spiritual warfare, it came to be, and so on and so forth. So if we see that when John sees Jesus in the very first opening scene of Revelation, and Jesus has hair like wool, and he has feet like burnished bronze, and his eyes are like rubies, and he has a sword coming out of his mouth, do you think Jesus is really spitting a dagger out of his mouth? No, it's symbolism. It means the word of God's coming out of his mouth. Hebrews describes it as a two-edged sword, separating flesh from spirit, right? And so John is always using symbolism. So 666 is no different. We talk about the mark of the beast, but nobody ever talks about the mark of the Lamb. And in Revelation 14:1, the angels of the four corners of the earth are told to withhold the judgment and the wrath until everyone is marked with the seal of the Lamb. And where are they marked with the seal of the Lamb? Oh, the forehead. Hey, where was it that the Jewish mikvah took place? The foreshadowing of baptism, pouring on the forehead. So this is baptism. Those who are marked with the seal of the Lamb are baptized on the forehead. This is what John is talking about when he explains the seal of the Lamb. But and then in contrast, there's this mark of the beast, 666. And 666 is not the Antichrist number. The Antichrist term is never used in Revelation. The term Antichrist is only used in John's first epistle. But this is explaining someone who persecutes Christians. And let's see who that might be. The Hebrew alphabet, as I explained, there are no difference between numbers and letters. So letters are numbers. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2. So the letter Nun is the first letter of this person's name, and it has the character value of 50. The letter Resh has a 200 value, and that is the second letter of this person's name. Vav has 6, Nun has 50, Quaf has 100, Samach has 60, Resh has 200. And so if you add up the letters of this person's name, it equals 666. What name is that, might you ask? Caesar Nero.
Really?
If you add up Caesar Nero in Hebrew, you get 666. The guy who's putting the Christians, wrapping them in animal skins and throwing them in the lion's den to be devoured. The guy that's dipping them in tar and hanging them on a post and lighting them on fire to light the streets. The guy that's persecuting Christians. So John is using symbolism here to explain that Nero is just an agent of the devil. He's the beast. And he is contrasting then in chapter 7 and chapter 14 the mark of the beast and the mark of the Lamb. And what John is really asking then is, using these numbers, who do you belong to?
Oh, wow.
Are you sealed with the Lamb, or sealed with the beast. Well, how is it then that John says you must use this number to buy and sell? Well, guess whose face was on the money of the time? Caesar Nero.
Sure.
So yes, you have to use 666 to buy and sell because his face is on the money.
Right.
That's what John is talking about. Another clue
wow.
on who this is. And so numerology then for John is symbolism. He's using it to explain people.
Sure.
And he's using Old Testament imagery to explain New Testament events. And so we can see that even though John is writing in Koine Greek, he's thinking in Hebrew, right?
Sure.
Right? Because he is Hebrew.
Right.
He's a Second Temple Jew.
Right.
And so he's still thinking in Hebrew. So you have to understand Revelation through the Hebrew lens or you miss it all.
Oh, wow.
Isaiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, so on and so
I
forth.
gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the number 666 actually is just a representation. Then there's this other great number in Revelation, 144,000. And of course, there are some denominations, or cults, I should say, that say that it's just going to be 144,000 people in heaven.
Yes, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then don't try to convert me because you might lose your spot if I,
Yeah, really?
you know what I'm saying?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, is all of Revelation symbolic or is some of it? Well, all of it's symbolic. And 144,000 is a symbolic number. Right before that, what does John see? It's in Revelation 7. It's a vision of the people of God. And he sees 12,000 from this tribe, 12,000 from this tribe. So 12 is the number of the people of God.
Exactly.
So if you have 12 in the Old Testament, the tribes of Israel, 12 in the New Testament, disciples, 12 times 12. And then what was the number of a multitude? Because remember, after he hears the number 44,000, he sees a multitude that can't be numbered. The number of a multitude is 1,000.
Oh, wow.
So 12, the number of the people of the Old Testament, 12, the people of the New Testament, the
Sure.
12 disciples, times 1,000. A multitude is
144,000.
144,000.
Yeah.
And so he's using these symbolic numbers to explain the people in heaven, the people of God, basically. And you one of the reoccurring themes, of course, in Revelation, and I won't get into it too far, I'll go down a bunny trail on that one, is John hears and sees. He hears, behold, the Lion of Judah. He sees a lamb if it had been slain. He hears the number 144,000. He sees a multitude that cannot be numbered. So what John hears and sees, it's a way of him playing with the literary structure to get you to pay attention that these are symbols of things that you're supposed to recognize.
Wow.
So numbers in the Bible are used to represent things and are somewhat of a code or a cluing in to people who are of the Hebrew faith of what's going on and
Sure.
the deeper meaning of the events.
Wow.
They're not magical though.
They're not magical. Wow, you really went in depth there. That was really good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I don't have a whole lot of time to say stuff.
Well, maybe I need to cut down my research.
I would think not. I would think not. No. Sweetheart, that's the reason people watch this is for you.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
So how about your reality check?
Well, my reality check is I'm for one, I'm fascinated by this, and I think that for season 4, we already have things lined up for season 3, but for season 4, I think we're going to deep dive into Revelation.
Revelation, sure.
Yeah, for one. But for 2, for my reality check, I believe our futures are fluid. I think we are one decision away from completely changing our lives. One good or bad decision
I
away
agree.
from completely different life. I don't think changing the spelling of my name is going to change my destiny.
No.
And as for biblical numerology, I think all things in God's world are relevant and placed there with purpose, as we saw. But as you kind of alluded to, we have to be very careful about an eisegenic interpretation.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I use that term correctly?
Yes.
Eisegenic? Hey.
And in the Old Testament, names meant things. And so Rachel, El is any word that ends in the Old Testament with ELL is short for Elohim, which means Lord. The Lord's Lamb. Rachel is Lord's Lamb. Bethel is house of the Lord.
Sure.
Right. And so, Jacob means he cheats.
Oh.
And of course he was called he cheats because he was trying to pull his brother back in the womb and be the first one to come out so that he could inherit everything. Well, then Jacob's name is changed to Israel, one who wrestles with El, the Lord.
gotcha.
who wrestles with the
I
Lord.
gotcha.
Yeah, so names were symbolic of a person's personality,
Sure.
but they're not magical. So
Sure.
I can see where some of the underlying ideas of that might come from, but they're misinterpretations.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Good stuff. Well, next week we're going to talk about the Book of Enoch and forbidden technology.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
What is it that they taught the fallen angels in the book of Enoch that was forbidden? Divination. Don't talk to dead people.
Yeah, don't talk. We haven't said that in a long time.
I know.
Don't talk to dead
We're going to
people.
talk about it a lot next week. I guarantee
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Well, thank you to Trent and Jackie at Crow Coffee for letting us use their beautiful venue. Thank you to Shane over at Hive Pulpit for his excellent editing abilities. And we'll do it again next week.
We'll see you then, guys.
Bye, guys.